Welcome to my channel Echoes of Coin. The 1981 penny may look ordinary, but it marks the very last full year of America's true copper cents. With hidden varieties, rare proof types, and secrets most people overlook, this coin could be worth far more than just 1 cent. The 1981 1-cent coin of the United States holds a special place in the story of modern American coinage. Although it was struck just before the historic transition of 1982, the 1981 penny represents the end of an era for the Lincoln cent. For more than 70 years, the Lincoln cent had been composed primarily of copper, and in 1981 it was still struck in the traditional 95% copper, 5% tin and zinc alloy that had defined the denomination for decades. To collectors, historians, and everyday Americans, the 1981 penny was not merely a common coin. It was a symbol of continuity, national pride, and the legacy of Abraham Lincoln on American money. By examining the history, design, mintage, varieties, errors, and significance of the 1981 cent, one can see why this otherwise ordinary coin deserves such attention in numismatic study. The Lincoln cent was introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse featured the bust of Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions Liberty to the left, In God We Trust above, and the date of issue on the right. From 1909 to 1958, the reverse displayed Brenner's wheat ears design, often referred to as the wheat penny. Beginning in 1959, to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, the reverse design was changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This reverse remained in place until 2008. By the time 1981 arrived, Americans had already been using the Lincoln Memorial reverse for over 2 decades. It had become one of the most familiar coins in circulation. The 1981 cent was struck at 3 United States mint facilities: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Philadelphia coins bore no mint mark, Denver coins were marked with a small d below the date, and San Francisco coins bore an S. Though these were proof issues intended for collectors, together, the 3 mints produced billions of 1981 pennies, ensuring they would be common in circulation. However, while most circulated examples are worth face value, there are varieties and high-grade examples that carry significant collector value. Composition is an essential aspect of the 1981 cent. At the time, the coin weighed 3.11 grams and was composed of 95% copper with a balance of tin and zinc. This gave the coin its distinctive reddish appearance and heavier feel compared to later zinc cents. Copper cents also develop natural toning over time, shifting from bright red to brown, which appeals to collectors who appreciate the color progression. In 1981, the rising cost of copper was already an issue for the mint. Metal prices were pushing the intrinsic value of the cent close to its face value, creating financial strain for the U.S. Mint. While the official transition to zinc-plated cents occurred in 1982, the 1981 coin thus represents the last full year when all circulating pennies were struck entirely in copper alloy. The design of the 1981 cent remained unchanged from prior years. The obverse featured Lincoln's profile, based on Brenner's original 1909 design. Over time, the design had undergone minor modifications, but the basic portrait remained intact. On the reverse, Gasparo's depiction of the Lincoln Memorial showed the monument in meticulous detail, with the inscriptions United States of America at the top, E Pluribus Unum just above the memorial, and 1 cent along the bottom. Sharp-eyed collectors often note that Lincoln's seated statue is visible inside the memorial on the reverse, making Lincoln the only figure to appear on both the obverse and reverse of the same U.S. coin. This design detail became a hallmark of the Lincoln Memorial cent. Mintage figures for the 1981 cent were extremely high. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 3.1 billion cents, Denver struck over 5.3 billion, and San Francisco struck over 4 million proof cents. With such enormous numbers, most examples today are plentiful. In circulated condition, they rarely command a premium. However, collectors often seek out high-grade uncirculated specimens, especially those graded as red by professional grading services, which indicate the coin retains its original copper luster. Proof issues from San Francisco, struck with mirrored fields and frosted devices, are also collected as part of proof sets. One of the most interesting aspects of the 1981 cent is the variation in mintmark style. The Denver and San Francisco mints used different styles of mintmark punches, resulting in what collectors call Type 1 and Type 2 mintmarks for that year. The difference lies primarily in the shape and clarity of the S mintmark on San Francisco proofs. The Type 1S is more filled and less defined, while the Type 2S is sharper and clearer. Collectors place significant importance on distinguishing between these varieties, as the Type 2 proof is scarcer and commands higher value. This mintmark distinction makes the 1981 proof cent particularly appealing to numismatists. Error coins from 1981 also attract collector interest. Common errors include off-center strikes, broad strikes, double strikes, and die cracks. Additionally, there are minor double die varieties known for the date, mintmark, and lettering. While none are as famous as some double die cents from earlier decades, they still represent valuable finds for collectors who enjoy searching through rolls of coins. Misaligned dies and weak strikes also appear occasionally among 1981 cents, adding to the diversity of collectible errors from this year. From a historical perspective, the 1981 cent embodies the final chapter of the copper era. Just 1 year later, the mint would transition to zinc planchets coated in copper, drastically changing the physical characteristics of the penny. For this reason, many collectors regard 1981 as the last true copper penny year. It serves as a milestone, reminding us that the value of metal and the cost of coin production directly influence the designs and compositions of coins we use every day. The 1981 penny is therefore not just a small piece of copper. It is a symbol of changing times in U.S. monetary policy. Culturally, pennies in 1981 were still ubiquitous in everyday life. Children collected them in piggy banks, stores gave them as change, and they were commonly found in vending machines and payphones. The Lincoln cent was an American staple, and its presence was taken for granted. Little did the public know that behind the scenes, the mint was preparing for the biggest change in penny composition since the coin's inception. For millions of Americans, the pennies in their pockets from 1981 were identical to those they had used for decades. Only numismatists and government officials recognized that the end of the copper era was approaching. For collectors today, 1981 cents are among the easiest Lincoln cents to acquire, but condition and variety are everything. Brilliant uncirculated examples, particularly those certified as MS-67 or higher, can sell for impressive premiums. Proof cents with deep cameo contrast and Type 2 mintmarks are especially sought after. Roll collectors often save unopened rolls of 1981 cents, knowing that high-grade copper coins will always find a place in the market. For error enthusiasts, 1981 provides an abundance of opportunities to hunt for minor varieties. For historians, the coin marks the last page before a transformative chapter in U.S. coinage. The legacy of the 1981 1-cent coin is thus multifaceted. It represents tradition, continuity, and the conclusion of a long-standing alloy. It also serves as a reminder of how economic pressures can reshape even the smallest denomination in circulation. Whether viewed as an everyday coin, a collectible, or a piece of history, the 1981 penny has a story to tell. Every detail, from its design to its mintmark styles, contributes to that story. And for collectors who hold a 1981 cent in their hands, they are holding a final piece of the true copper era of American coinage. The 1981 1-cent coin, better known as the Lincoln Memorial Penny, may seem like an ordinary coin, but in reality, it represents the end of a historic era in U.S. coinage. For over 70 years, the Lincoln cent had been struck in a copper alloy, 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This gave the coin its distinctive weight, sound, and beautiful red color that collectors prize. But by the early 1980s, rising copper prices made each penny nearly worth its own value in metal. Producing copper cents was becoming too expensive for the U.S. Mint, and a change was inevitable. That's why the 1981 penny is so important. It was the very last full year when every circulating cent was still made of solid copper alloy. Just 1 year later, in 1982, the mint switched to copper-plated zinc cents, a change that still continues today. So when you hold a 1981 penny, you're holding the final chapter of America's true copper cents. Design-wise, the coin features Victor David Brenner's classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, with the inscriptions "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year 1981. On the back, Frank Gasparo's Lincoln Memorial design is shown, with Lincoln's statue visible inside, making him appear on both sides of the coin. The 1981 cent was struck in huge numbers, billions from the Philadelphia and Denver mints, plus special proof coins from San Francisco. Philadelphia coins carry no mint mark, Denver coins show a D, and San Francisco proofs have an S. Within those San Francisco proofs lies an important variety, the Type 1 and Type 2 mint mark styles. Type 2 proofs with a sharper S are scarcer and more desirable among collectors. Errors also add intrigue to the 1981 cent off-center strikes. Double strikes, die cracks, and minor double dies exist, and collectors search rolls to find these unusual pieces. Proof coins with strong cameo contrast or flawless copper luster can sell for impressive premiums. In circulated condition, 1981 cents are still very common and worth face value. But uncirculated and proof examples, especially those graded red by professional services, are worth far more. The copper content itself is another point of appeal, 3.11 grams of nearly pure copper, compared to the lighter zinc cents that followed. Beyond numismatics, the 1981 penny reflects the economic pressures of the early 1980s. Inflation and rising metal costs forced the government to change a coin that Americans had taken for granted for generations. It reminds us how even the smallest denomination can be shaped by global economics. So the next time you come across a 1981 penny, don't overlook it. It isn't just spare change. It's a relic of America's last true copper cents, a piece of history that bridges the old and the new.